see, when I was a kid, as you guys know, I'm visually impaired, and when I was growing up being visually impaired, there were certain things that you had to use, and like certain tools that you had to use to learn. So one thing that everyone knows that blind people use is Braille. Also, we use large print, and we use books on tape, or well, that's what they call it, books on tape. And now it's like books on your iPhone or something like that, right? So now technology has come a long way. But when I was a kid, man, I have this embarrassing story that I was embarrassed about. But really, reality, it wasn't as embarrassing as I thought it was. So, if you guys ever heard of a CCTV, I know I shared it in one of my videos before, and it's this big machine. It's huge, right? And back then, so if you go to a local library and you ask for a CCTV for the visually impaired, they'll direct you to what it looks like. And it's still big. It has a flat screen now, and but it's nowhere near as big as it was when I was a kid. When I was a kid, man, that thing was huge. The monitor, like this big. You know your old TVs, how your old TV looked, like a 20-inch TV with the thing in the back. I can't even say it, like, because we have flat screens now, right? So check it. When I was a kid, they had us using, I got introduced to something called CCTV, and it was for the visually impaired. And so, for the visually, so when we was kids, that was a new tool for us. And when I was in 6th and 7th and 8th grade, it was the start of me learning how to use this CCTV, man. Let me tell you, I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed about it. It was crazy because, first of all, in my middle school, I went to Southwest Academy in Baltimore County, and I believe I was the only visually impaired blind kid in the school. They said there was one other girl that, you know, she had glasses and she had corrective vision, but she had some sort of low vision, nowhere near as low vision as mine. Man, my parents, you know, we had a meeting at the beginning of the school year, talking with the teachers, talking with the administrators and everything, and having my rehabilitation teacher, she would come in and, you know, teach me life and life skills for visually impaired people that, you know, that are kids growing up as an adult. So back to the CCTV. So when, like, literally when I first got to school, I knew that I had the CCTV, and I knew what I was going to do with the CCTV. My parents, they basically said, look, you have this machine, it's for you to see. So CCTV, go and look that up. Make sure you look it up, right? So they said you got to carry it around class. And so it was on this desk, a rolling desk, like from right here to like right here. And I had to, every period, so I believe there was 4 periods for one day, and then there was, I believe, 8 periods, but I was in the magnet program, so I always had 4 periods. I never had to change out all my classes, pretty much. You had A day, you had B day, and you had C day, I believe. And so every class I would have to roll this big old machine, right? This big old machine in the class, in the hallway. Man, if you could see my face and my embarrassment of those days, man, I was so embarrassed. I think for 2 weeks, literally, for 2 weeks, I would go and once the bell ring, and class would end, I had to carry it to my next class. So roll it to my next class. That's why I was on the desk. And so when the class would end, I literally would dart out the door, because the first day that I I had to take the machine around. You know, you're in a school with 2,000, I don't know, maybe 3,000 kids. You know, you got kids coming up to you. They've never seen this before. I'm different, right? And you can't visibly, no one can ever visibly see what's going on with my vision, because I don't have scars on my face. And, you know, honestly, vision is you can't really see when someone is really blind unless they have like a scar or something different about their eyes. But if the person maybe just don't seem apparently that they are blind or whatever it may be, no one can see what was going on with me. So I had this big old machine. Everyone was asking, like, what's this, what's that? Oh, all up in my face. New environment. I've never been in a classroom with this many kids. I've never been in a school with this many kids, because I went to a school called New Summers Christian School, and it may have been 100 students at the school, and I may have had like 10 kids in my classroom. Maybe the most was 20. Boy, so I'm rolling. Kids ask me questions. I'm up here. I want to cry. I want to have tears in my eyes, but new environment, all these kids, you gotta look strong. You gotta be strong. So I'm just like, all right, go to the next class. I did that for like a day. Every time the bell rung, I would wheel the machine so that I could use my books and use the things that I would need in the school. Because one thing that my parents fought for me was not being in special education. There's nothing wrong with being in special education, but my parents felt that I was able to keep up with all the other students. And, they fought hard for me to go be in the public school system and just not be in special ed. And the fact of the matter was that I was in the magnet program, but the teachers, they didn't feel like they could help me, or they didn't feel like I could keep up with the class. But anyway, back to the CCTV. CCTV was so embarrassing to me. So embarrassing to me, because you have this big machine, right? You guys get it. You have this big old machine no one else is using. You're different than everyone else, just like everyone's different. But in your mind as 11, 10, whatever, 12-year-old, you don't see everyone else's difference. You don't hear everyone else's differences because you're worried about yourself. So I was so scared. I was scared. I was embarrassed, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So next day of class, next week of class, every day I darted out the door because I knew my teachers were chasing after me. I had this one teacher, I believe his name was Mr. Reed. He was a reading teacher. That's funny. But I literally, let me close the door. It opened up. I literally darted out of class, and he would chase after me like, hey, get your machine. What are you doing? You need that, for your education. I'm not listening to him. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then all the other classes, dart out the door. And I actually want to thank my teachers for chasing after me. And eventually, with the CCTV, I believe my parents, they came into class and they had to sit down with the teachers, and then they talked with the teachers and said, okay, he can just keep his CCTV in this one spot, in this one class, which was my magnet program class. I was in environmental science, and so I could keep the CCTV there. Man, I never used it, honestly, like I was supposed to. But it was because I was so embarrassed about how people would see me and how people would perceive me, right? See me and perceive me. And I was so embarrassed about it that I hardly ever used it, but I really actually needed it. And so in this video that I'm telling you guys, in the story that I'm telling you guys, is don't be embarrassed. Please don't be embarrassed about the things that are happening in your life. Don't be embarrassed about the things that are getting you through the next level that you have to go to. Because I'm gonna tell you, if I used that CCTV back in middle school, I believe that I would be a lot further than where I might be now. You know, I want to have had to overcome the embarrassment of the other things that I've felt embarrassed about, because I have been able to pass the hump of that embarrassment. But you know, within time and within things that happen in your life, you know, you look back at it and you see, like, man, I've come a long way, but man, if I had just did that, right? Well, let's not even worry about if I had just did this, if I had just did that. Let's worry about moving forward in a positive way, and let's just talk about getting past those those embarrassing moments, because there's going to be times where you're going to feel uncomfortable. There's going to be times when you don't feel right about doing the things that you have to do to get through whatever your situation was. And I know for me, that CCTV was one of the walls that I had to jump or leap over, because that actually helped me later on in my years of college and now, honestly, as an adult. The CCTV, whether it's a mini CCTV, whether I'm going to the library and using the big CCTV, I'm not embarrassed anymore. I'm proud to use that machine that's able to help me get my job and get what I need to do, and get the things that I need to do done. And if people are looking and asking questions, that's okay. I can explain to them and bring light to my situation. So, number one take from this thing, don't be embarrassed. Do what you gotta do. Like always, I see you, dream, believe, succeed, you guys. Alright, deuces.